$85 for an extraction, ma'am, was the dentist's reply. "Oh, have you nae got anything cheaper?" replies the Scottish lass, getting agitated. "But that's the normal charge for an extraction, ma'am," replied the dentist. "What about if you didn't use uni anesthetic?" asked Maggie, hopefully. "Well, it's highly unusual, ma'am, but if that's what you want, I suppose I can do it for $65. "What about if you used one of your dentist trainees and still without anesthetic?" asked the Scottish lass. "Well, it's possible, but they are only training, and I can't guarantee their level of professionalism. It'll be a lot more painful, but I suppose in that case, we can bring the price down to, say, $40s. "Oh, that's still a bit much. How about if you make it a training session and have yon student do the extraction and the other students watching and learning?" The dentist replied, "Well, okay. It'll be good for the students, I suppose. I'll charge you only $5 in that case, but it will be a traumatic experience." "Now you're talking, laddie. It's a deal," said Maggie. "Can ye book the hubby in for next Wednesday?" Zero. Decades ago, 2 Irish nuns had just arrived to the USA by boat, and one said to the other, "I hear that the people in this country actually eat dogs." "Odd," her companion replies. "But if we shall live in America, we might as well do as the Americans do." Nodding emphatically, the Mother Superior points to a hot dog vendor, and they both walk toward the cart. "2 dogs, please," says one. The vendor is only too pleased to oblige, and he wraps both hot dogs in foil and hands them over the counter. Excited, the nuns hurry over to a bench and begin to unwrap their dogs. The Mother Superior is the first to open hers. She begins to blush, and then, staring at it for a moment, leans over to the other nun and whispers cautiously, "Which part did you get?" 1. A nun, Sister Sarah, wakes up one morning feeling great. She gets out of bed and decides to go to the kitchen for some breakfast. On her way over there, she runs into Sister Jane, and she says, "Hi, Sister Jane," to which Sister Jane answers, "I see you got off on the wrong side of the bed this morning, sister." Puzzled, Sister Sarah did not understand what Sister Jane meant by that, so she ignored it and went on. She's passing by the garden when she runs into Sister Roberta and says, "Good morning, Sister Roberta. Hope you're having a great day." Sister Roberta answers, "Good morning, Sister Sarah. I see you got off on the wrong side of the bed today." Sarah was now really anxious to know why everybody she meets keeps saying that when she felt so great, so she decided to go and see Mother Superior, who was in her office. She enters and asks Mother Superior, "Holy Mother, everybody keeps telling me that I got off on the wrong side of the bed, but I feel great." The Mother Superior replies, "That's because you have Brother John's shoes on." 2. 3 brothers each marry a woman. The first one married a woman from Minneapolis and said to her, "When I get back from work, I want the house to be clean and tidy." He didn't see any changes on the first day, but on the second day, the house was clean and tidy. The second brother married a woman from Dallas and said to her, "When I get back from work, I want the house to be clean, the laundry done, and have food ready on the table. On the first day, he didn't see any changes, and not on the second day either. But on the third day, it was as he had asked. The third brother married a woman from Detroit and said to her, "When I get back from work, I want the house to be clean, the laundry done, and have food ready on the table." On the first day, he didn't see anything, and not on the second or third day either. On the fourth day, he could see a little bit with his left eye and had just enough mobility in his right hand to make himself a sandwich. 3. A kindergarten class had a homework assignment to find out something exciting and relate it to the class the next day. When the time came to present what they'd found, the first little boy the teacher called on walked up to the front of the class and with a piece of chalk made a small white dot on the blackboard and sat back down. Puzzled, the teacher asked him what it was. "It's a period," he replied. "I can see that," said the teacher, "but what is so exciting about a period?" "Darned if I know," chirped the little boy. "But this morning my sister was missing one. My mother fainted. My dad had a heart attack, and the boy next door joined the Navy." 4. The wise old Mother Superior from County Tipperary was dying. The nuns gathered around her bed, trying to make her comfortable. They gave her some warm milk to drink, but she refused it. One of the nuns took the glass back to the kitchen. Remembering a bottle of Irish whiskey received as a gift the previous Christmas, she opened it and poured a generous amount into the warm milk. Back at Mother Superior's bed, she held the glass to her lips. Mother Superior drank a little, then a little more. Before they knew it, she had drunk the whole glass down to the last drop. "Mother," the nuns pleaded, "please give us some wisdom before you die." She raised herself up in bed with a pious look on her face and said, "Don't sell that cow." 5. 2 old Jewish men, Sid and Abe, are sitting in a Mexican restaurant one day. Sid asks Abe, "Do you know if any people of our ancestry were ever born and raised in Mexico?" Abe replies, "I don't know. Let's ask our waiter." When the waiter arrives, Abe asks, "Are there any Mexican Jews?" The waiter says, "I don't know, senor. I ask the cooks." He returns from the kitchen after a few minutes and says, "No, senor. The cooks say no Mexican Jews." Abe isn't satisfied and asks, "Are you absolutely sure?" The waiter, realizing he is dealing with gringos, replies, "I check once again, senor," and goes back into the kitchen. While the waiter is away, Sid says, "I find it hard to believe that there are no Jews in Mexico. Our people are scattered everywhere." The waiter returns and says, "Senor, the head cook, Manuel, he says there is no Mexican Jews." "Are you certain?" Abe asks again. "I just can't believe there are no Mexican Jews." "Senor, I ask everyone," replies the exasperated waiter. "All we have is orange Jews, grape Jews, prune Jews, tomato Jews, and apple Jews, but no Mexica-N Jews." 6. An insurance company asked for more information regarding a work-related accident claim. This was the response. I put poor planning as the cause of my accident. I am an amateur radio operator and was working on the top section of my new 80-foot tower. When I had completed my work, I discovered that I had, over the course of several trips up the tower, brought up about 300 pounds of tools and spare hardware. Rather than carry the materials down by hand, I decided to lower the items using a pulley. Securing the rope at ground level, I went to the top of the tower and loaded the tools into a small barrel. Then I went back to the ground and untied the rope, holding it tightly to ensure a slow descent of the 300 pounds of tools. You will note in block number 11 of the accident report that I weigh 155 pounds. Due to my surprise of being lifted off the ground so suddenly, I lost my presence of mind and forgot to let go of the rope. I proceeded at a rather rapid rate of speed up the side of the tower. In the vicinity of the 40-foot level, I met the barrel coming down. This explains my fractured skull and broken collarbone. Slowed only slightly, I continued my rapid ascent, not stopping until the fingers of my right hand were 2 knuckles deep into the pulley. I regained my presence of mind and was able to hold on to the rope in spite of my pain. At the same time, however, the barrel of tools hit the ground and the bottom fell out of the barrel. Devoid of the weight of the tools, the barrel now weighed approximately 20 pounds. I refer you again to my weight in block number 11. As you might imagine, I began a rapid descent down the side of the tower. In the vicinity of the 40-foot level, I met the barrel coming up. This accounts for the 2 fractured ankles and the lacerations of my legs and lower body. The encounter with the barrel slowed me enough to lessen my injuries when I fell onto the pile of tools, so only 3 vertebrae were cracked. I am sorry to report, however, that as I lay on the tools, in pain, unable to stand, and watching the empty barrel 80 feet above me, I again lost my presence of mind and let go of the rope. 7. A man goes inside a pet shop and starts to move around the cages to scout the pets. He sees a monkey with a price of $5,000 and goes to the merchant to ask for details. "Hey, mister, the monkey, what does it know to worth that much money?" "Well, it knows Windows 95, 98, 2000, and also knows Word, C++, Visual Basic, and last but not least, it knows how to play computer games." "Good monkey. It's worth the money." He goes and finds another monkey with a price of $1,000, and again he will ask the merchant, "What does this monkey know?" "It knows Linux, Unix, Coral, and AutoCAD." "Nice! Even I don't know those things." On a last scout run, he finds another monkey just sitting there with a price $2,000. The story repeats, and he goes with a lack of confidence to ask the merchant for details. And what does this monkey do for that ridiculous amount of money? I never saw her doing anything, but the other 2 call her project manager. 8. The story goes that some time ago, a man punished his 3-year-old daughter for wasting a roll of gold wrapping paper. Money was tight, and he became infuriated when the child tried to decorate a box to put under the Christmas tree. Nevertheless, the little girl brought the gift to her father the next morning and said, "This is for you, Daddy." He was embarrassed by his earlier overreaction, but his anger flared again when he found the box was empty. He yelled at her, "Don't you know that when you give someone a present, there's supposed to be something inside it?" The little girl looked up at him with tears in her eyes and said, "Oh, Daddy, it is not empty. I blew kisses into the box. All for you, Daddy." The father was crushed. He put his arms around his little girl, and he begged for her forgiveness. It is told that the man kept that gold box by his bed for years, and whenever he was discouraged, he would take out an imaginary kiss and remember the love of the child who had put it there. In a very real sense, each of us as humans have been given a gold container filled with unconditional love and kisses from our children, friends, family, and God. There is no more precious possession anyone could hold. He was standing on the sidewalk of Atlantica Avenue with a guitar and a handwritten sign that said, "Let's sing together." She began to play. Then a drunk arrived. Then another old lady, and they began to sing along with her. In a short time, a small crowd was singing together, and another small crowd played the audience, clapping hands at the end of each number. "Why do you do this?" I asked between songs. "I don't want to be alone," she said. "My life is very lonely, just like almost all old people. I wish they all could solve their problems in this way." 1. A flat-chested young lady read an article in a magazine that stated, "Dr. Bumbutu in Africa could enlarge your breasts without surgery." So she decided to go to Dr. Bumbutu to see if he could help her. Dr. Bumbutu advised her, "Every day after your shower, rub your chest and chant, 'Scooby-Dooby-Doobies. I want bigger.'" She did this faithfully for several months, and to her utter amazement, she grew to a terrific D-cup rack. One morning, when she was running late, she got on the bus and in a panic realized she had forgotten her morning ritual. Frightened she might lose her lovely if she didn't recite the little rhyme, she stood right there in the middle aisle on the bus, closed her eyes and said, "Scooby-Dooby-Doobies, I want bigger b." A guy sitting nearby looked at her and asked, "Are you a patient of Dr. Bumbutu?" "Yes, I am. How did you know?" He winked and whispered, "Hickory-dee, Doc." 2. During my physical examination, my doctor asked me about my physical activity level. I described a typical day. "Well, yesterday afternoon, I took a 5-hour walk about 7 miles through some pretty rough terrain. I waded along the edge of a lake. I pushed my way through brambles. I got sand in my shoes and my eyes. I avoided standing on a snake. I climbed several rocky hills, took a few leaks behind some big trees. The mental stress of it all left me shattered. At the end of it all, I drank 8 beers. Inspired by the story, the doctor said, "You must be one of an outdoorsman." "No," I replied. "I'm just a bad golfer." 3. Three mischievous old grannies were sitting on a bench outside a nursing home when an old grandpa walked by, and one of the old grandmas yelled out saying, "We bet we can tell exactly how old you are." The old man said, "There is no way you can guess it, you old fools." One of the old grandmas said, "Sure we can. Just drop your pants and undershorts, and we can tell your exact age." Embarrassed just a little, but anxious to prove they couldn't do it, he dropped his drawers. The grandmas asked him to first turn around a couple of times and to jump up and down several times. Then they all piped up and said, "You're 87 years old." Standing with his pants down around his ankles, the old gent asked, "How in the world did you guess?" Slapping their knees and grinning from ear to ear, the three old ladies happily yelled in unison, "We were at your birthday party yesterday." 4. A woman meets a man in a bar. They talk, they connect, they end up leaving together. They get back to his place, and as he shows her around his apartment, she notices that one wall of his bedroom is completely filled with soft, sweet, cuddly teddy bears. There are 3 shelves in the bedroom with hundreds and hundreds of cute, cuddly teddy bears, carefully placed in rows, covering the entire wall. It was obvious that he had taken quite some time to lovingly arrange them, and she was immediately touched by the amount of thought he had put into organizing the display. There were small bears all along the bottom shelf, medium-sized bears covering the length of the middle shelf, and huge, enormous bears running all the way along the top shelf. She found it strange for an obviously masculine guy to have such a collection of teddy bears, but doesn't mention this to him, and actually is quite impressed by his sensitive side. They share a bottle of wine and continue talking, and, after a while, she finds herself thinking, "Oh my God, maybe this guy could be the one. Maybe he could be the future father my children." She turns to him and kisses him lightly on the lips. He responds warmly. The woman rolls over, gently strokes his chest, and asks coyly, "Well, how was it?" The guy gently smiles at her, strokes her cheek, looks deeply into her eyes, and says, "Help yourself to any prize from the middle shelf." 5. 4 people in the carriage of a train. An Englishman, a pretty young blonde girl, an ugly old woman, and a Frenchman. It all goes dark when the train goes through a tunnel. In the dark, there's the sound of an almighty slap, and when the train emerges from the tunnel, the Frenchman is rubbing his face, and there's a huge red mark on his cheek. The old lady thinks, "I bet that Frenchman fondled the blonde in the dark, and she slapped him." The pretty young blonde thinks, "I bet the Frenchman tried to fondle me in the dark, got the old lady by mistake, and she hit him." The Frenchman thinks, "I bet that Englishman fondled the blonde in the dark, but the blonde thought it was me and hit me." The Englishman thinks, "I hope there's another tunnel coming up soon so I can slap that French tibiluat again." 6. A man suffered a serious heart attack while shopping in a store. The store clerk called 911 when she saw him collapse to the floor. The paramedics rushed the man to the nearest hospital, where he had emergency open heart bypass surgery. He awakened from the surgery to find himself in the care of nuns at the Catholic hospital. A nun was seated next to his bed, holding a clipboard loaded with several forms and a pen. She asked him how he was going to pay for his treatment. "Do you have health insurance?" she asked. He replied in a raspy voice, "No health insurance." The nun asked, "Do you have money in the bank?" He replied, "No money in the bank." "Do you have a relative who could help you with the payments?" asked the irritated nun. He said, "I only have a spinster sister, and she is a nun." The nun became agitated and announced loudly, "Nuns are not spinsters. Nuns are married to God." The patient replied, "Perfect. Send the bill to my brother-in-law." 7. 3 men are in a hotel room in Soviet Russia. The first 2 men open a bottle of vodka, while the third is tired and goes straight to bed. He is unable to sleep, however, as his increasingly drunk friends tell political jokes loudly. After a while, the tired man gets frustrated and walks downstairs for a smoke. He stops in the lounge and asks the receptionist to bring tea to their room in 5 minutes. The man walks back into the room, joins the table, leans towards a power outlet, and speaks into it. "Comrade Major, we want some tea to room 62, please." His friends laugh on the joke until there is a knock on the door. The receptionist brings a teapot. His friends fall silent and pale, horrified of what they just witnessed. The party is dead, and the man goes to sleep. After a good night's rest, the man wakes up and notices his friends are gone. Surprised, he walks downstairs and asks the receptionist where they went. The nervous receptionist whispers that KGB came and took them before dawn. The man is horrified. He wonders why he was spared. The receptionist responds, "Well, Comrade Major did quite like your tea gag." 8. Yesterday, I had a flat tire on the highway, so I eased my car over to the shoulder of the road, got out, opened the trunk, took out 2 cardboard men, unfolded them, and stood them at the rear of my car. "Those are my emergency flashers." A husband decides to make a quick run to the store while his wife waits at home. A few minutes after he leaves the house, his guy friend shows up, hoping to speak with him. Seeing that the husband is not home, the friend says he'll come back later, but is invited in by the wife. As the 2 of them make small talk in the living room, there's a moment of awkward silence. Looking at the wife's face, the friend brazenly offers to give her $100 if he can kiss her on her right cheek. Blushful but tempted by the money, the wife accepts the deal. After 1 kiss, he offers another $100. Once again, the wife accepts a kiss, this time on her left cheek. The friend then bids her goodbye and leaves. Finally, the husband returns home, and the wife quickly stuffs the money in her pocket. She tells him his friend had just visited. Of course, she leaves out the kissing part. Her husband looks at her and asks, "Did he pay back the $200 he owed me?" 1. A priest takes a walk down to the docks one day and runs into a fisherman that attends his church. Upon hearing that the priest has a few hours off, the fisherman invites him out to sea to fish with him. Out at sea, it doesn't take long for the fisherman to realize that the priest has no idea how to fish. So he gives him some quick instruction and shows him how to cast his bait out into the water. Within moments, the priest manages to reel in the largest fish that the fisherman has ever seen. In the moment of excitement, the fisherman exclaims, "Look at the size of that son of a b***!" Immediately, the priest becomes disturbed and says, "My son, please don't use such language." The fisherman, embarrassed and hoping word of this gaffe will not reach the rest of his family, makes up an explanation in a moment of ingenuity. "Oh no, father, that's the name of that type of fish, a son of a b***." He lies, taking advantage of the priest's fishing naivete. The priest is pacified and begs forgiveness for jumping to conclusions. The fisherman, relieved, brings the priest back to the docks and drops him off. The priest lumbers back to the church with a giant fish in his arms. Upon entering the church, he sees the bishop and approaches him. "Bishop, look at the size of this son of a b*** I caught." The bishop stands wide-eyed a moment. "Priest, how could a man as holy as you use such language in the house of God?" The priest calmly explains that it is the name of the fish, and the bishop, feeling embarrassed for jumping to conclusions, offers to take and clean the fish for the priest.
After cleaning the fish, the bishop takes it to the maid in the kitchen and tells her, "Maid, I want you to cook this son of a b*** for me."
The maid blushes and responds, "Bishop, it may not be my place to say so, but is such language fitting for a man of your stature?" The bishop laughs haughtily, explains that it's the name of the fish, and that he too had made the same mistake only minutes earlier. The maid laughs too, apologizes, and cooks the fish. It just so happens that the Pope decided to stop in for dinner at their church that evening. They are all sitting at the table when the Pope says, "Oh, my children, I know that gluttony is a sin, but I simply can't stop myself from eating this fish. I must know, where did you get it?" "I caught the son of a b***," said the priest. "I cleaned the son," said the bishop. "And I cooked the son," said the maid. For a moment, the Pope sat silently, staring at them, all wide-eyed. He then slowly removed his hat, kicked off his sandals, put his hands behind his head, kicked his feet up on the table, and said, "You know what? You are all right." 2. A teacher told her young class to ask their parents for a family story with a moral. In the classroom the next day, Joe gave his example first. "My dad is a farmer, and we have chickens. One day, we were taking lots of eggs to the market in a basket on the front seat of the truck when we hit a big bump in the road. The basket fell off the seat, and all the eggs broke. The moral of the story is not to put all your eggs in one basket." "Very good," said the teacher. Next, Mary said, "We are farmers too. We had 20 eggs waiting to hatch, but when they did, we only got 10 chicks. The moral of this story is not to count your chickens before they're hatched." "Very good," said the teacher again. very pleased with the response so far. Next, it was Barney's turn to tell his story. My dad told me this story about my Aunt Karen. Aunt Karen was a flight engineer in the war, and her plane got hit. She had to bail out over enemy territory, and all she had was a bottle of whiskey, a machine gun, and a machete. "Go on," said the teacher, intrigued. "Aunt Karen drank the whiskey on the way down to prepare herself. Then she landed right in the middle of 100 enemy soldiers. She killed 70 of them with the machine gun until she ran out of bullets. Then she killed 20 more with the machete till the blade broke. And then she killed the last 10 with her bare hands." "Good heavens," said the horrified teacher. "What did your father say was the moral of that frightening story?" The child said, "Stay away from Aunt Karen when she's been drinking." 3. An engineer was crossing a road one day when a frog called out to him and said, "If you kiss me, I'll turn into a beautiful princess." He bent over, picked up the frog, and put it in his pocket. The frog spoke up again and said, "If you kiss me, I'll turn back into a beautiful princess and stay with you for 1 week." The engineer took the frog out of his pocket, smiled at it, and returned it to the pocket. The frog then cried out, "If you kiss me and turn me back into a princess, I'll stay with you for 1 week and do anything you want." Again, the engineer took the frog out, smiled at it, and put it back into his pocket. Finally, the frog asked, "What is the matter? I've told you I'm a beautiful princess and that I'll stay with you for 1 week and do anything you want. Why won't you kiss me?" The engineer said, "Look, I'm an engineer. I don't have time for a girlfriend, but a talking frog. Now that's cool." 4. A group of friends went deer hunting and paired off in twos for the day. That night, one of the hunters returned alone, staggering under the weight of a 10-point buck. "Where's Henry?" "Henry had a stroke of some kind. He's a couple of miles back up the trail." "You left Henry laying out there and carried the deer back?" "A tough call," nodded the hunter, "but I figured no one is going to steal Henry." 5. She was standing on the sidewalk of Atlantica Avenue with a guitar and a handwritten sign that said, "Let's sing together." She began to play. Then a drunk arrived, then another old lady, and they began to sing along with her. In a short time, a small crowd was singing together, and another small crowd played the audience, clapping hands at the end of each number. "Why do you do this?" I asked between songs. "I don't want to be alone," she said. "My life is very lonely, just like almost all old people. I wish they all could solve their problems in this way."